Okay, here we go. Third one. So 1930, Mahatma Gandhi led a nonviolent march in India protesting Britain colonial monopoly on taxation of essential resources, salt. So it's the Salt March, nonviolent. Salt March triggered a larger movement for civil disobedience. So if we're thinking about nonviolence and civil disobedience, we can definitely bring in a mind at work to help us, understand what he's talking about here. That eventually won Indian independence in 1947. Shortly before the Salt March, he had written to Viceroy Lord Irwin. So this is a part of the landed gentry. Viceroy is a title and Lord is a title. The representative of the British Crown in India. The passage below is the conclusion of that letter. So we are only getting the end of the letter, not the whole thing. Read it carefully, analyze the rhetorical choices he makes to present his case to Lord Irwin. So, what case? The case for Indian independence, and that they should not have a monopoly, and they should not be improperly taxing salt. So, if I just do a quick scan, I see he says, I know, I have, I served. I have. So I know that he's making very strong statements throughout this, because he starts the beginning of every paragraph with that. I know that in embarking on nonviolence, I shall be running what might be fairly termed a mad risk. So he's acknowledging that people see this as foolish. He's acknowledging other people's viewpoints on his nonviolence. But the victories of truth have never been won without risk, and often of the gravest character. So, very loaded language. Conversations of a nation that have consciously or unconsciously preyed upon one another, far more numerous, far more ancient, and no less cultured itself, is worth any amount of risk. So here he's talking about a nation that's preyed upon another. And preyed is a very, negatively charged word, right? So here he's saying that Britain has preyed upon India. Whether she meant to or not, it doesn't matter. And that converting Britain is worth any amount of risk, right? It's emphasizing the importance of his cause. I have deliberately used the word conversion, so he draws our attention back here. For my ambition is no less than to convert the British people through nonviolence, and thus make them see the wrong they have done to India. So he states his purpose very clearly. I do not seek to harm your people. I want to serve them even as I want to serve my own. So we have the juxtaposition, right? Between harm and serve. I believe that I have always served them. And so he has repeated this word over and over again. I served them up until 1919, blindly. But when my eyes were open and I conceived of non-cooperation, the object was still to serve them. I employ the same weapon that I have in all humanity successfully used against the dearest members of my family. If I have love equal for your people with mine, it will not long remain hidden. So he's equating Britain with family, with love, to show he doesn't harbor ill will towards them. He just wants them to come to his position and to be persuaded by nonviolence. It will be acknowledged by them, even as the members of my family acknowledged after they had tried me for several years. If the people join me, as I expect they will, the sufferings they will undergo, unless the British nation sooner retraces its steps, will be enough to melt the stoniest of hearts. The plan through civil disobedience will be to combat such evils as I have sampled out. If we want to sever the British connection, it is because of such evils. So look at the language that he's using, right? We've got suffering, we've got, where'd it go? Combat, evils, sever, evils. When they are removed, the path becomes easy. Then the way to friendly negotiation will be open. If the British commerce with India is putrefied with greed, you will have no difficulty recognizing our independence. So again, he's associating like all of these actions with Britain with these incredibly negative words. And he says, as soon as these things are gone, the path will be easy. They will have no difficulty recognizing their independence. I invite you to then pave the way for the immediate removal of these evils, and thus open the way for real conference between equals. So he keeps using this negative language, and then it's followed by this very positive language associated with communication, with collaboration. And he does that to emphasize this idea of like these two countries coming together, not one being subservient to the other, not Britain preying upon India, but the two countries being equal. Interested only in promoting the good of mankind through voluntary fellowship and arranging terms of mutual help and commerce equally suited to both. So again, like all of this positive connotation associated with the two of them together, not Britain working against India. You have unsuccessfully laid stress upon communal problems that unhappily affect this land. Important though they undoubtedly are for the consideration of any scheme of government, they have little bearing on the greater problems which are above communities and which will affect them all equally. So here he is acknowledging the things that they have decided to focus on are important. But they're only important as a scheme of government. They're not important things to the actual people. And he's saying the people are what matters, not the schemes of government, but like what the people living in this country actually go to. If you cannot see your way to deal with these evils, and my letter makes no appeal to your heart, on the 11th day of this month, I shall proceed with such co-workers of the ashram as I can take, to disregard the provisions of the salt laws. So up until this point, he has laid out in very general terms his hopes, right? His purpose for all of this and what he hopes to happen. And then at this line is where he declares his actions. And he says in no uncertain terms exactly what they will do. He even gives the day that they'll do it on. I regard this tax to be the most inquitious of all the poor man's standpoint. From the poor man's standpoint. As the independence movement is essentially for the poorest in the land, the beginning will be made with this evil. The wonder is what we have submitted to the cruel monopoly for so long. It is, I know, open to you to frustrate my design in arresting me. And so he acknowledges, like, you will probably have me arrested. So he understands what he's doing. He makes it very clear that he understands his actions and the consequences of his actions, and that he is doing them anyway. I hope that there will be 10,000 ready in a disciplined manner to take up the work after me, and in the act of disobeying the Salt Act, to lay themselves open to the penalties of a law that should never disfigure the statute book. So not only does he know, like, hey, you'll probably punish me, but I hope there are 10,000 people that you have to punish after this. I have no desire to cause you unnecessary embarrassment, or any at all, as far as I can help. If you think there's any substance in my letter, and if you would care to discuss the matters with me, and if to that end you would like to postpone the publication of this letter, I shall gladly refrain on receipt of a telegram to that effect soon after this reaches you. You will, however, do me the favor not to deflect me from my course unless you can see your way to conform to the substance of this letter. So he knows that they're going to publish this letter as evidence of, his retaliation against the British government. And he's saying, like, if there's anything in this letter that appeals to you, if there's anything you want to talk about, like, all you have to do is contact me. However, if you don't see anything in this letter, then don't deflect, right? Don't pretend. Just conform to the word of the letter. This letter is not in any way intended as a threat, but it is a simple and sacred duty, peremptory on the civil register. Therefore, I am having it specially delivered by a young English friend who believes in the Indian cause, and is a full believer in nonviolence, and who Providence seems to have sent me, as it were, therefore, for this very purpose. And so here this is really important, because he identifies his work as a simple sacred duty, and this is kind of a dig at Irwin. He is sending a white English friend who supports the Indian cause. Essentially to say, look, your other comrades already support us. Why would you not support us as well?